morning sun cast long shadows across the wheat fields of New Haven Colony as Lisa Grant walked through the main street. She had served as governor for 8 years now, watching their small world grow from 40,000 settlers to nearly 50,000. The colony sat on Kepler 442b, a planet so far from Earth that most people here had never seen their homeworld. 3 generations of families had been born under these alien skies, and they were content with their quiet life. Lisa stopped at the market square where farmers were setting up their stalls. Fresh vegetables, grain, and the rare minerals they mined from the northern mountains filled the wooden tables. Children ran between the stalls while their parents traded goods and shared news. This was the life they had built together, simple but good. "Morning, Governor," called out Jake Morgan from across the square. He carried a heavy bag filled with old artifacts and computer tablets. Jake was the colony's only historian and archaeologist. Most people thought his work was interesting, but not very useful. He spent his days studying the strange ruins scattered across their planet. "Find anything new out there, Jake?" Lisa asked with a smile. She genuinely liked the young man, even if his obsession with old alien ruins seemed pointless to most colonists. Jake's eyes lit up. "Actually, yes. Amy and I found more symbols yesterday. We think they might be some kind of warning system." Amy Walsh was Jake's research partner, a linguist who had come to the colony 5 years ago specifically to help with the alien language studies. "Warnings about what?" Lisa asked, though she had heard similar theories from Jake many times before. "We're not sure yet, but the patterns suggest they were left by something called the Vorthak. The local stories call them the Ancient Guardians, but everyone thinks it's just mythology." Lisa nodded politely. The ruins were certainly mysterious, but after 3 generations on this world, nothing dangerous had ever happened. The strange stone structures with their carved symbols were just remnants of whatever species had lived here long ago. Most colonists used the smaller ruins as landmarks, or even built their farms around them. "Well, keep up the good work," Lisa said, patting Jake's shoulder. "Just remember we have the Harvest Festival next week. The Colony Council will need those mineral reports from the northern sites." As Lisa continued her morning walk, she thought about how peaceful their world had become. They grew enough food to feed everyone, the mines provided materials for trade, and their small manufacturing plants produced everything they needed. Sure, they were completely cut off from Earth and the other human colonies, but that just meant they had learned to take care of themselves. The communication array could send messages to Earth, but it took 6 months for signals to travel that distance. By the time Earth received any message and sent help, years would pass. The colonists had accepted long ago that they were truly on their own out here on the frontier. Ben Carter, the colony administrator, was waiting for Lisa at the government building. His face looked worried, which was unusual for the normally calm man who handled their day-to-day operations. "Lisa, we need to talk," Ben said quietly. "Something strange happened at the communication station this morning." They walked into Ben's office where several technicians were studying computer screens filled with data. The room hummed with electronic equipment that monitored space around their planet. "What kind of strange?" Lisa asked. 3 large objects appeared at the edge of our system about an hour ago," Ben explained. "They're definitely artificial and they're heading straight for us." Lisa felt her stomach drop. In 30 years of colonization, they had never encountered any signs of active alien life. The ruins were old, clearly abandoned long before humans arrived. But these objects were moving with obvious purpose. "How large?" she asked. "Each one is about 2 kilometers long," replied Sally Kim, their chief communications officer. "They don't match any human ship designs in our database." Lisa stared at the display screen showing 3 dots moving steadily toward their world. "How long until they get here?" "At their current speed, about 6 hours," Sally answered. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Lisa's mind raced through their options, but the reality was simple and terrifying. New Haven had no military defenses beyond some security officers with basic weapons. They were farmers, miners, and craftspeople who had never needed to fight anyone. "Try to contact them," Lisa ordered. Send a standard greeting message on all frequencies. For the next hour, Sally sent various messages toward the approaching ships. Basic mathematical sequences, audio recordings of human voices, and even music. The alien vessels maintained their course without responding to any communication attempts. Jake arrived at the government building after hearing the news from other colonists. Word was spreading quickly through the small community, and people were starting to gather in the streets with worried expressions. "Governor Grant," Jake said urgently, "I think these visitors might be connected to the ruins. Amy and I have been translating more of the symbols, and we keep finding references to something called the hegemony." "What kind of references?" Lisa asked. "Warnings mostly. The Vorthak texts mention aggressive outsiders who conquer worlds and destroy local civilizations. If these ships belong to that same group?" Jake didn't finish the sentence, but everyone understood. The peaceful morning had turned into their worst nightmare. Sally suddenly looked up from her communication station. "Governor, we're receiving a transmission." The alien voice that filled the room was cold and mechanical, clearly translated by some kind of computer system. "Primitive human settlement, you are occupying territory claimed by the Hegemony Empire. This world contains sacred sites that belong to our civilization." Lisa stepped forward. "This is Governor Lisa Grant of New Haven Colony. We've lived on this world for 30 years. We're peaceful people who mean no harm to anyone. Your presence here violates hegemony law." The voice continued without acknowledging her words. "You have 72 hours to evacuate this planet completely. Any humans remaining after this deadline will be eliminated." The transmission ended, leaving the room in shocked silence. Lisa looked around at the frightened faces of her people. 72 hours to abandon the only home most of them had ever known. "Can we evacuate?" Ben asked quietly. Sally shook her head. "Our transport ships can't carry 50,000 people. Even if they could, we have nowhere to go. The nearest human colony is 8 months away." Lisa felt the weight of leadership pressing down on her shoulders. These people depended on her to find solutions. But what could anyone do against alien warships? They were completely alone, with no weapons and no way to call for help that would arrive in time. Jake stepped forward with determination in his eyes. "Governor, I need to get back to the ruins. If the hegemony considers them sacred sites, maybe there's something in the Vorthak writings that can help us understand what we're facing." Lisa nodded. "Take whatever resources you need. The rest of us will start preparing evacuation plans even if we can't save everyone." As Jake hurried away, Lisa looked out the window at her peaceful colony. Children were still playing in the Yai streets, unaware that their entire world was about to change forever. In less than 3 days, everything they had built might be destroyed by aliens who saw humans as nothing more than unwanted pests. The myth of ancient guardians had become their only hope, but myths rarely saved people from very real warships heading their way. Jake ran through the colony streets toward his research site, his bag bouncing against his back with each step. People gathered in small groups, talking in worried voices about the alien ships hanging in their sky like dark clouds. Some families were already packing their belongings, though everyone knew there was nowhere to run. Amy Walsh was waiting for him at the largest ruin complex, about 3 miles outside the main settlement. The ancient stone structure rose 50 feet above the ground, covered with the mysterious symbols they had been studying for years. Computer equipment and translation software surrounded a work table, where Amy had spread out dozens of photographs and notes. "Jake, thank goodness you're here," Amy said, pushing her glasses up her nose. "I've been working on the new section we found yesterday. The symbols are definitely about the hegemony, but there's something else. Something about protectors or guardians." She pointed to a series of carved symbols on her computer screen. "Look at this pattern. It appears throughout the ruins, always connected to references about the sleeping ones and the oath of protection." Jake studied the translations carefully. The Vorthak weren't just warning about the hegemony. They were promising to defend against them. "But that's impossible," Amy said. "The Vorthak disappeared thousands of years ago. These ruins are ancient." "Jake," felt his heart racing as pieces of the puzzle started fitting together. What if they didn't disappear? What if they're just sleeping, waiting for something to wake them up? Amy looked at him like he had lost his mind. Jake, that's crazy talk. Dead civilizations don't come back to life. Maybe they're not dead, Jake insisted. Look at these symbols here. They mention a beacon system, something that calls the Guardians when their protection is needed. They worked frantically for the next 6 hours, translating every symbol they could find. The story that emerged was incredible. The Vorthak had been protectors of this region of space for millions of years, defending younger civilizations from aggressive empires like the hegemony. When their numbers grew too small to actively patrol every world, they had entered some kind of deep sleep, leaving behind beacon systems to wake them when needed. There, Amy pointed to a new translation on her screen. The beacon is inside this ruin complex. It's some kind of communication device that works faster than light. Jake looked around the ancient stone walls surrounding them. Somewhere in this structure was technology that could call for help across the galaxy. But would anyone answer after so many years? Back in the colony, the situation was getting worse. Governor Lisa Grant stood in the emergency command center. They had set up in the government building. Rick Hayes, their defense coordinator, was explaining their limited options. We have 20 security officers with basic weapons, Rick said grimly, plus about 100 volunteers who know how to hunt. Against alien warships, we might as well throw rocks. What about the mining explosives? Asked Susan Lee, a former military officer who had come to the colony 5 years ago seeking a peaceful life. We have enough to make some noise, Rick admitted, but nothing that could damage a ship in orbit. Lisa studied the tactical display showing the 3 alien vessels. They had moved into orbit around the planet and were conducting detailed scans of the surface. Occasionally, one of the ships would fire a beam of energy at an uninhabited area, leaving a crater where forest or grassland used to be. The message was clear. This is what happens to anything that resists. We need to buy time, Lisa decided. Keep trying to communicate with them. Offer to negotiate terms or discuss relocation schedules. Anything to delay their attack. Ben Carter shook his head. I've been sending messages every hour. They're not interested in talking. The deadline is absolute. As the second day began, panic started spreading through the colony. Some families tried to flee to the mountains, hoping to hide in caves until the aliens left. Others demanded that the government surrender immediately to avoid bloodshed. A few angry groups wanted to fight even though they knew it was hopeless. Jake and Amy had spent the entire night in the ruins, searching for the beacon system. They found hidden chambers beneath the main structure, filled with technology that still hummed with power after thousands of years. The Vorthak had built their devices to last. Here, Amy called from a circular room deep underground. This has to be it. In the center of the chamber stood a crystal formation about the size of a person. Symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly with internal light. Computer terminals surrounded the crystal, their screens showing star maps and data streams in the ancient Vorthak language. How do we activate it? Jake wondered. Amy studied the control systems carefully. I think we just touch it. But Jake, we don't know what this will do. It could be dangerous. More dangerous than the hegemony warships? Jake asked. Above ground, the aliens were losing patience. Commander Zextar, leader of the hegemony fleet, had conquered over 50 worlds in his career. Humans were just another primitive species that needed to be removed from valuable territory. Their delaying tactics annoyed him. Begin bombardment of their communication systems, he ordered his weapons officer. Show them we are serious about the deadline. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, destroying the colony's main communication array and power grid. Half the settlement went dark as electrical systems failed. Emergency generators kicked in for essential services, but the message was clear. The aliens could destroy them anytime they chose. In the underground chamber, Jake and Amy felt the ground shake from the orbital bombardment. Dust fell from the ancient ceiling as the Vorthak technology continued to hum around them. We have to try, Jake said. It's our only chance. Amy nodded reluctantly. If this kills us, at least we tried to save everyone. Jake placed his hands on the crystal surface. The moment his skin touched the alien material, the entire chamber exploded with light. The crystal pulsed with energy that traveled through hidden conduits throughout the ruin complex. Above ground, every Vorthak structure on the planet began to glow. The beacon sent its signal out across space, traveling faster than light through dimensions humans had never discovered. The message was simple but urgent. The protected world was under attack and needed immediate assistance from the sleeping guardians. Jake collapsed, overwhelmed by the alien technology. Amy caught him as he fell, checking his pulse with shaking hands. He was alive but unconscious, apparently drained by whatever had just happened. "Please work," Amy whispered to the glowing crystal. "Please let somebody hear us." In orbit, Commander Zextar noticed the energy readings from the planet's surface. His science officer reported massive power spikes from multiple locations, all connected to the ancient ruins they had been ordered to preserve. "What are those primitives doing down there?" Zextar demanded. "Unknown, Commander. The energy signatures don't match any known human technology." Zextar felt a moment of unease. The hegemony had conquered this region of space precisely because it contained important Vorthak archaeological sites. His orders were to eliminate the humans but preserve the ruins for study. If the humans had somehow activated ancient technology, it could complicate everything. "Accelerate our timeline," he decided. "Begin the ground assault immediately. We cannot allow them to damage the sacred sites." As hegemony landing craft launched toward the planet's surface, Amy dragged Jake's unconscious body toward the surface. The beacon continued to pulse with alien energy, sending its desperate message across the galaxy. Whether anyone would answer remained to be seen, but humanity had played their last card in a game they couldn't win alone. Amy dragged Jake through the underground tunnels as explosions shook the ground above them. The hegemony ground forces had landed and were moving toward the colony with heavy weapons. She could hear the sound of energy blasts and human screams, echoing through the ventilation shafts that connected the ruins to the mining tunnels. Jake stirred in her arms, his eyes opening slowly. "Did it work?" he whispered. "I don't know," Amy replied, helping him sit up against the tunnel wall. "The beacon is still active, but I haven't seen any signs of help coming." Above ground, the battle was going badly for the colonists. Rick Hayes and his small group of defenders had set up positions around the main settlement, using mining equipment as cover. Their hunting rifles and improvised explosives barely scratched the alien soldiers' armor, while the hegemony weapons cut through human defenses like paper. Susan Lee crouched behind an overturned farm vehicle, firing her rifle at the advancing aliens. "Fall back to the school building," she shouted to the other defenders. "We can't hold this position." Governor Lisa Grant watched the destruction from the emergency bunker beneath the government building. The colony's children and elderly had been evacuated to the deepest mining tunnels, but she knew it was only a matter of time before the aliens found them there too. "Any word from Jake?" she asked Ben Carter, who was monitoring the few communication systems still working. "The ruins are still glowing, but we've lost contact with him and Amy," Ben reported. "The hegemony forces are surrounding that area now, Commander." Zextar stood in his command ship, watching the easy victory unfold below. Human resistance was pathetic, exactly what he had expected from such a primitive species. His ground forces would secure the ruins within the hour, and then they could begin proper excavation of the Vorthak sites. "Commander," his science officer called urgently. "I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system." Zextar turned to the main display screen. "What kind of energy signatures?" "Unknown technology, sir. Power levels are off our scales. The readings are coming from objects we previously classified as space debris. Throughout the Kepler system, ancient hulks that had drifted in space for thousands of years began to change. What the hegemony scouts had identified as dead asteroids and metal wreckage started to unfold like flowers blooming in fast motion. Hidden beneath layers of accumulated cosmic dust were ships beyond anything either humans or the hegemony had ever imagined. The Vorthak vessels were enormous, each one larger than all three hegemony ships combined. Their hulls were made of materials that seemed to bend light around them, creating a shifting, almost liquid appearance. As they powered up, energy patterns flowed across their surfaces like living circuits. "Sir, the objects are moving," the hegemony science officer reported, his voice shaking. "They're definitely artificial constructs, and they're heading directly for us." Zextar felt fear for the first time in his military career. These ships had been sleeping in their system for who knows how long, disguised as harmless debris. Now, they were awakening, and their technology was clearly far beyond anything the hegemony possessed. "All ships prepare for combat," he ordered. "Target the nearest vessel and fire all weapons." The hegemony fleet launched everything they had at the closest Vorthak ship. Energy beams, explosive missiles, and plasma charges struck the ancient vessel's hull. The attacks had no visible effect. The Vorthak ship absorbed the energy and continued its approach as if nothing had happened. On the planet's surface, Jake and Amy emerged from the tunnels to see lights filling the sky. The battle in orbit was visible even in daylight as weapon. Fire lit up space around their world. "Something's happening up there," Amy said, pointing at the streaks of light above them. Jake looked up at the alien combat, then back at the glowing ruins around them. The beacon worked. "The Vorthak are coming back." The largest Vorthak vessel positioned itself between the hegemony fleet and the planet. A voice spoke across all communication frequencies, reaching every ship and every settlement at the same time. The words came through in perfect translation, as if the speaker understood every language simultaneously. "Hegemony forces, you are attacking a protected world. By what authority do you violate the ancient agreements?" Commander Zextar struggled to find his voice. The hegemony had legends about the Vorthak, ancient protectors who had vanished long before his people reached space. Most considered them myths, stories told to explain old ruins and abandoned technology. "This is Commander Zextar of the Hegemony Third Fleet," he finally replied. "We claim this world by right of conquest. The humans are primitive invaders with no legal claim to this territory." "Incorrect," the Vorthak voice replied calmly. "This world was designated as a sanctuary for developing species. The humans are under our protection, as stated in the Covenant of Guardianship established 40,000 years ago." "The Vorthak are extinct," Zextar protested. "Your civilization died out millennia ago. We do not die. We sleep until needed. The beacon has awakened us to fulfill our duties as protectors of the innocent." The hegemony commander realized his fleet was trapped. 3 massive alien ships surrounded his forces, each one capable of destroying his entire fleet without effort. But retreat would mean admitting failure to the hegemony empire, a mistake that would cost him his life. "We will not surrender to myths and legends," Zextar declared. "All ships attack formation. Destroy the largest vessel." The 3 hegemony ships focused their fire on the Vorthak flagship. Every weapon they possessed unleashed energy at the ancient protector. For a moment, the space around the Vorthak ship blazed with explosions and energy discharges. When the light faded, the Vorthak vessel was completely undamaged. Worse yet, the hegemony ships found their weapons systems shutting down one by one. Not destroyed, simply deactivated by some technology they couldn't understand or resist. "Your aggression ends now," the Vorthak Guardian announced. "Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. You will answer for your crimes against the protected peoples of this sector." On the planet below, the hegemony ground forces suddenly found their equipment failing. Weapons stopped firing, vehicles lost power, and communication systems went dead. The alien soldiers stood helpless as human defenders emerged from cover, hardly believing what they were seeing. Rick Hayes approached the nearest hegemony soldier, who had dropped his useless weapon and raised his hands in surrender. "I guess your friends up there can't help you now," Rick said. In the ruins, Jake and Amy watched a smaller Vorthak ship descend through the atmosphere. It landed gracefully near the beacon chamber, its hull flowing like liquid metal as it touched down. A section of the ship opened and a figure emerged that was clearly not human, but somehow felt familiar and peaceful. The Vorthak Guardian was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to be made of the same flowing material as their ships. Its face was kind but ancient, with eyes that held the wisdom of millions of years. "Young ones," The Guardian spoke directly to Jake and Amy, though its mouth didn't move. The words appeared in their minds as clearly as if spoken aloud. You have done well to activate the beacon. Your species shows the courage and determination we have been waiting to see. Jake found his voice. Are you really the Vorthak? The ancient guardians from the ruins? We are. And you are the inheritors. We have long awaited. Your people have proven themselves worthy of the legacy we offer. The Guardian looked up at the sky where the hegemony fleet was being systematically disabled. The immediate threat is ended, but greater challenges await. Are your people prepared to accept the responsibility of protecting others as we have protected you? The Vorthak Guardian stood before Jake and Amy in the ancient ruins, its presence both alien and strangely comforting. Around them, the beacon continued to pulse with soft light, connecting their world to technologies beyond human understanding. My name is Guardian Prime, the being said, its voice speaking directly into their minds. I am the eldest of our kind, keeper of the covenant that has protected this region of space for millions of years. Jake stepped forward, still amazed that he was speaking to a living legend. Why us? Why did you choose humanity to inherit your mission? Guardian Prime's ancient eyes studied the young archaeologist. We have watched many species rise and fall across the galaxy. Most become aggressive conquerors like the hegemony, or they remain peaceful but weak. Your people are different. You have the strength to fight when necessary, but also the wisdom to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Amy looked confused. But we're just a small colony. We barely have space travel. How can we protect anyone? Numbers and technology are not what make true guardians, Guardian Prime replied. Today, 50,000 humans faced certain death rather than abandon their home. Your people fought impossible odds to defend what they believed was right. This courage is what we have been seeking. Above them, the situation in orbit was becoming clear. The 3 hegemony ships hung powerless in space while Vorthak vessels surrounded them. Commander Zextar sat in his darkened command center, all his systems shut down by technology he couldn't begin to understand. A Vorthak Guardian materialized on his bridge, having somehow passed through the ship's hull like it was made of air. Zextar reached for his sidearm, but the weapon refused to function. Commander Zextar, the Guardian said calmly, you will answer for the crimes your empire has committed against peaceful worlds. I followed orders, Zextar replied defiantly. The hegemony has the right to expand and claim new territories. By destroying entire civilizations? By enslaving species that offer no threat? The Guardian's voice remained peaceful, but Zextar could feel the weight of judgment behind the words. Your empire has violated the fundamental laws that govern civilized behavior. Zextar realized his situation was hopeless. What do you want from me? Information. The locations of worlds your empire has recently conquered. The plans for future expansion. Help us identify the civilizations that need to be liberated from hegemony control. The commander stared at the alien being. Cooperation would be treason against his own empire, but refusal would likely mean death. After a long moment, he made his choice. I will provide what you need, Zextar said quietly. But in return, I want protection from hegemony retaliation. Drone. The planet's surface, Governor Lisa Grant stood among the ruins with her surviving colonists. The hegemony ground forces had surrendered after their equipment failed, and now sat under guard by human volunteers who still couldn't believe they had won. Guardian Prime turned to address the growing crowd of humans. Your species stands at a crossroads. You can return to your quiet life on this world, protected but limited, or you can accept the greater destiny that awaits you among the stars. What exactly are you offering? Lisa asked, speaking for her people. Knowledge, technology, the ability to travel faster than light and establish your own network of protected worlds. But with this gift comes responsibility. You would become guardians like us, defending species that cannot defend themselves. Ben Carter looked skeptical. We're just farmers and miners. We don't know anything about running a galactic empire. Empires conquer, Guardian Prime corrected gently. Guardians protect. There is a vast difference. You would not rule other species, but you would shield them from those who would do them harm. Rick Hayes stepped forward, his rifle still slung over his shoulder from the recent battle. What happened to your people? Why did you go to sleep instead of continuing to protect the galaxy yourselves? Guardian Prime's expression grew sad. Our numbers dwindled over the millennia. The energy required to maintain our sleeping state grows greater with each passing age. We knew that eventually we would need successors. Your species has proven itself worthy of that trust. Jake looked around at his fellow colonists. Fear and uncertainty showed on many faces, but also hope and determination. These were people who had built a new world from nothing, who had faced extinction and refused to surrender. If we accept, Jake asked, what happens to the hegemony? They will be offered the same choice we give all aggressive empires: reform their ways and make reparations to their victims, or be stripped of their ability to harm others. Amy had been quiet during the exchange, but now she spoke up. How do we know we won't become like them? Power corrupts, doesn't it? Guardian Prime smiled, the first time they had seen the ancient being show such an expression. This question proves you are ready. Those who seek power are rarely worthy of it. Those who fear its corruption often make the best guardians. Lisa looked at her people, then back at Guardian Prime. As governor, the decision ultimately rested with her, but she knew she couldn't make it alone. We need time to discuss this, she said. This choice will affect not just us, but all of humanity. Of course. But know that other species in this region need protection now. The hegemony has left many worlds in chaos, their people suffering, under occupation or struggling to rebuild after conquest. Over the next several hours, the colonists debated their future. Some wanted to accept immediately, excited by the possibility of exploring the galaxy and helping other species. Others worried about the risks and responsibilities involved. A few simply wanted to return to their peaceful, farming life. In the end, it was Susan Lee who spoke the words that decided their fate. The former military officer stood before the assembled colonists and said, "We've already proven we're willing to die for what's right. Maybe it's time to live for it too." The vote was close, but the majority chose to accept Guardian Prime's offer. Lisa Grant, speaking for New Haven Colony and all of humanity, formally accepted the role of Galactic Guardians. "Then let us begin," Guardian Prime said. "Your first task will be to establish contact with Earth and the other human colonies. They must be prepared for the changes coming to your species." Jake found himself appointed as humanity's first Guardian historian, responsible for learning Vorthak history and identifying species in need of protection. Amy became head of the new Guardian Academy, where humans would learn to use their inherited technologies responsibly. Within days, Vorthak ships carrying human crews began appearing throughout human space. The arrival of obviously alien technology, operated by human colonists, shocked Earth's government into accepting their new reality. Admiral Pete Collins, commander of Earth's defense forces, stood on the bridge of the first human-built Guardian vessel as it left Earth's solar system. The ship used Vorthak technology but human engineering, a perfect symbol of their new partnership. "Guardian Station Alpha reporting ready for deployment," he announced to Guardian Prime, who observed from a viewing screen. "Excellent, Admiral. Collins, the first liberated world awaits your arrival. The species there has been under hegemony control for 2 years and needs immediate assistance." Back on Kepler 442b, now renamed Guardian Prime Base, the former colonists watched ships launch toward distant stars. Their quiet farming world had become the headquarters for a new age of galactic protection. Jake stood in the ruins where it all began, now converted into a memorial and training center. The beacon that had called the Vorthak still pulsed with gentle light, but now it connected to dozens of worlds where humans served as the galaxy's newest guardians. The myth had become reality, and humanity had found its true destiny among the stars.